What makes a great story?
What makes a great story? You know, Karen, that question is huge. That's what drives this entire industry, is what makes a great story. I think a couple of things for me, and it has to be personal because I think different people have different opinions of what is a great story or a great film or whatever. But a great story is a story about a very ordinary human being who's faced with extraordinary challenges and goes through an extraordinary transformation, trying to survive or get back to where they were or to find their way to some new place. So there's a journey, there's a great journey that that person personally goes on. To me, that's what makes a great story. Great story to me is a story about relationships, about the struggle. This is obviously very personal because this is my preference, the struggle in relationships. Not just the struggle of the two individuals or three or four individuals in trying to achieve what they want to achieve, but the struggle we all have as human beings just relating to each other and being open with each other, being honest with each other, getting what we want from each other, giving what we want to each other, forming some kind of relationship, and how difficult that is, how perilous it is, how fragile it is, and how quickly it can fall apart. A good example of that is Marriage Story, which is like a beautiful, wonderful, happy marriage which is falling apart. And sometimes, at least my experience watching that film, I'm going, why? Why is it falling apart? Well, because it's that fragile. And I think that, you know, there wasn't a big violation in the middle of it that created this falling apart. Those kind of stories are what for me, make great stories. Then in the storytelling, the telling of the story, what makes a great story is when I'm surprised. I love it when I'm surprised, when there's a point where the story's going on, and what we all do when we see a story happening is we all, in our minds, consciously or unconsciously, anticipate or predict where it's going to go. I can see where this is going to go, or this is going to happen, or because he did that, she's going to do that. Oh, I can see it. And many times we're right, but then there are those moments when it just does a total reversal, and we didn't see it coming. We didn't see it coming. And what that does, those moments, those turning points that are so startling, understandable, but startling, just not expected. And then they're not magical, it's not science fiction or anything like that, it's just not expected. That moment opens up something for us, and where we can see deeper into who those characters really are. So we get greater insight into these characters and their struggles and their problems, and that's the beauty of a well-told story.
Why do you think some people resonate with one story over another? So someone could see, sounds like we both saw Judy and we both liked it. Mm-hmm. I thought it was excellent, as tragic as it was. Mm-hmm. But some other people could see it and say, I'm not impressed. Why do you think one person thinks a story is great versus another sees it and says, nothing special here?
Well, I think it all comes to, and Elsha and I have had this a couple of times, where we'll sit side by side at a movie, and Elsha, who's right over here, Elsha will love the movie, and I don't, or vice versa. Now, it's only because we're two different people that it doesn't. It's still the same. It's still the same movie. It's still the same story. But getting back to your question, why do people resonate with certain stories? I think it all comes down to projection, because as we're watching a story, one thing I'm very keenly aware of for myself and for everybody else, when we watch a story, we project ourselves into the other characters. In fact, and we do it when we read a script or read a novel, we do the same thing. But when we watch a movie, we do the same. We project ourselves. And the way we participate in the portrayal of that character, we get involved with that character, we care, we have empathy, or we have disgust, we have some kind of emotional connection with each character. And so we go on the journey with them. Now, if we watch a movie like Judy, and someone watches that, and there's no way for that individual who's watching it to project himself or herself into that character, because there's no common ground. There's nothing, not that you have to be an actress or a singer or in Hollywood But do you aspire to do anything artistic? Do you have, these demons is there anything within, if there's nothing within that character that they can project themselves into and attach themselves to, then they're not going to like the film because it is not speaking to them. Nothing wrong with the film, it just doesn't speak to them. And they could like another film, like a Transformer film, which they think is brilliant, and I could go, I don't get it, because that I can't project myself into that world. So there's a world and there are characters that we have to project ourselves into and get involved and engaged with. And if we can't, then we'll just sit back and watch the movie and wonder what the whole fuss is all about.